Lucy's the one that, again, introduced me to Alan, and he was just like he is now, just really a nice, easygoing, pleasant guy, smart as hell. I mean, the details that he could remember, and you have to when you're putting together hearings for a Senate and getting your questions right, and who's the witnesses, coordinating all of that for the committee. And remember, in those days, that's when the big legislative stuff was starting to come out for Indians, right? That's when you first started working on things like the Indian Education Act, and 638 was the beginning of the talk then. Public Law 638. It's another one of those times when it was the right person at the right time in history when things were happening. To me, it was like him being there, Lucy and Joe and others around at the right time, that I got to see how all of that was coming down and how it was organized. And they're the ones that put all of the stuff together for the Senate or for the whatever committee that they're working on. His position does that, right? So he's up to his elbows in all of the paperwork and organization and timing of how things go through the system. Without that, we'd have just been wallowing around over there. But so there was a number of Indians that we all worked together, We'd have meetings in D.C., kind of share stuff, so we could be organized, not look disorganized. How do we help Indians tribal people, when they come into the city? How do we make sure that they get to the right committee? What individuals should they talk to when they're on the Hill? How do you need to get help them make appointments? Just that sort of general thing for people that were new to the city, just like Lucy did for me. That's what the group did. And so we didn't want to show like there was confusion among the different Indians that worked in the city, and thus leadership that came into the city. We wanted to make that look like we were organized. We were all on the same page, and we were all going for the same thing, so nobody would try to split us up. That's how I envisioned what was going on back there. Because I didn't really hear any arguments. I heard a lot of discussions, but not, oh, hell, you're wrong, or what do you mean? Any of that sort of stuff, right? It was real professional. He's still that way. Last time I seen him. So when you look at a bill like the Indian Child Welfare Act, for example, that's a pretty thick piece of legislation, and it's really legally complicated. Structural-wise, it was really complicated. And the hearings and the testimony that was given didn't always match up, depending on what part of the country you're from, what tribe's experience is with child welfare compared to a northwest to southwest, and then the fear of what if you say it wrong, if you write it wrong, could it be interpreted to hurt at some point, right? Would some attorney somewhere try to, and you knew they would, look for weaknesses in the bill to weaken the effect of the bill that we were after for the state purposes, to keep state stronger than what the Indians were hoping that would. We was hoping that the state would be out, and it would all be us. So the question was, are the tribes ready? What's your court systems like? What sort of services do you have? And those all of that is just volumes of study and paperwork so that you can answer those kinds of complicated questions. Because when you start doing something like that, you don't know what other tribes have or have not for security reasons, for training reasons, for everything that goes into a child welfare program. How can we assure the most anti-Indian senator, or the most ignorant when it comes to Indian law, Indian history, the treaties, the Constitution? How do you convince them that you can provide a better, safer environment for your children than the states provide? Because you know that we knew that the states would be coming in and saying, hey, we're doing it right. We're not mistreating kids. When at the same time we knew how many of our children are being taken and adopted away from our tribes. So how do you put all of that in paper in a sensible way to sell it, right? Now, most of us can bring this stuff in. Most of us can get up and say and share our experiences and what we see and witness and feel at home. But it takes somebody else back there to put it in a way that the committees can understand and use. And really that's where Alan and his skills were so important. We never did go out partying. He was never part of that crowd that I was ever in. It was really all business with him. So I'd never really seen him much outside of work time. And then there was so much work being done with some of the major Indian legislation was through that era. I mean, he had his hands full. But I guess if there was anything, I would hope it would be, I trusted him and he trusted me. I respected him and he respected me. To me, that's the most important aspect of friendship in a working relationship, particularly at that level, let alone just at any level. But when you're dealing with what you're dealing with affects and can affect lives of 1 million people, man, woman, and child, you need to have that kind of a respect for one another, or the hard work don't get accomplished, right? If you don't trust the wisdom if I didn't trust the wisdom of Alan, it would have been conflict, right? I mean, I still had some tribal influence with the tribes as president, and he had some influence too, so it had to gel, right? I think Dela Cruz would say the same thing. The working relationship and the trust in one another of all of the really main leaderships in that era. I've never seen it since. I personally haven't seen it since. But I think that for me, the strongest legacy that I can think of him is he was always the advocate for tribes across this country. Always. I never seen a weakness for that. I never seen him try to talk down a tribal issue. He's always bringing that subject to a higher level. And that takes, to me, a special person. You don't give up, right? You don't give up. And always trying to think of a way to improve the Indian world. To me, that's a hell of a legacy compared to what we've been through, right? From nothing to where we are today. But there are cases where we fought so hard, and we meaning a lot of us, not just me and not just Alan, not just Joe, but a lot of people. We were part of a big team. And I want to say that some of the women that were involved were really the guts of it, right? They were the ones that were putting the words together and getting the feelings into it and never missing a meeting. And then it was up to people like me and Joe and others, because we had the positions, for the voice to go out and sell what they had developed, right? That's how I see it. That's another one of those cases where, I don't know if I'm interpreting it right, but if you don't fight the battle, you don't appreciate the reward of the win, right?